All right, we are live. Welcome to the Choose Strong podcast. I am your host, Sally McRae, and I am joined again by my husband,
Eddie McRae.
And for those of you that are listening, you're not watching us on YouTube right now. Eddie and I are sitting on a screen side by side, and I'm really stoked that we get to do video today.
Mm-hmm.
That people get to see your handsome face. And if you're listening and you're getting jealous, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to watch this. You totally should, because the live show that we're doing right now it's just a little extra for you.
Yes. Extra.
So you can find this show on YouTube. Eddie set up the channel, the Choose Strong podcast channel. And we try to do a video, I'd say for all of them. I think a few of them have like a placeholder, but that's something that we're hoping to expand upon in the future. So I'm really excited for today, because today's topic, for those of you that are tuning in, you tuned in because you wanted to hear about the first race in the Choose Strong and the Choose Strong project, Badwater 135. So we're going to dive in today and talk about all things surrounding the race. And I'm so happy that Eddie is here with me, because being on the crew now for a second year in the row, he has a completely different viewpoint, perspective, and also insight of stuff going on in the crew car and conversation that I don't know about and that I'm not a part of. And I've always talked about how Badwater is very much a team effort. If you're going to move fast through the desert, you need a team with you. So I'm just excited that Eddie's going to share some insight there. But also, Eddie, I feel like every year that I do this race, even in 2018 when you weren't able to be out there, that the crew always shares with me stories that I don't remember, or you guys tell me things that I said or that I did that I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, those are my favorite.
So we will share some of those. But before we dive in, we do want to share a little bit about our sponsor for the show, and that is the Sally McRae Strength app, which you will find in the show notes here. If you follow me on any of my social media accounts, especially on Instagram, you'll always find the link to my app. And I do ask that you only sign up through my link to my app. But listen, this is what's the coolest part about the app is it's no contracts. It's $1 for the first month. So you can totally check it out. If you like it, fantastic. You can support us in what we do by being a monthly subscriber to the app, which is $14.99, or you can just pay one time for the full year for $99 a year. But we put out weekly content. I have a brand new uploaded 50K training plan in there where you can follow along day by day in both running and strength workouts. But then there's all these different categories. So I have like a strong knees category. I have a mobilize and strengthening category. I have quick workouts that you can do, running workouts. And then I also have programs. So if you want to do, maybe you're just getting back into fitness, but you want to do some running and you want to do strength training, you don't know how to combine those things, well, check out my programs. I have a 6 and 8 week program in there where you just open up the app each day. There's videos, there's descriptions, follow along videos. My hope with this app was to be able to deliver as much good coaching as I can to as many people as possible, because as Eddie reminds me, being my manager, we get contacted quite a bit about coaching. And I wish I could coach every person that contacted me, but I can't. So this app makes me so happy because I just get to pour in all of my coaching knowledge, trainer knowledge, all things strength, nutrition. And then do you want to tell them a little bit about the Facebook community that's on there too?
Yeah, there's a community of a couple thousand.
Almost 3,000.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so. Yeah, of people just sharing their story of, their fitness journey and what they've been doing with the app, and kind of a lot of people encouraging each other on their races. And
yeah, that's what I love. I'm seeing like friendships formed, and people are like, wait, you're doing that race? So I'm doing that one too.
Yeah,
and
cool.
People are forming friendships, but overall the community is very positive. It's uplifting. That is exactly how we like to keep it. And then a lot of people in that community are in the app doing the programs. So it's just really neat to see this whole creation of the strength community. really coming to life. So that is our sponsor. Check that out. Again, the links will be in the notes and here in the caption. And then if you ever have any questions for us about the app or our podcast, or if you have topic ideas or anything, please never hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to us through our website, which is sallymccrae.com. And then another website will be coming soon, the Choose Strong Project, which will be all things Choose Strong Project, because that's something that we're going to continue on through the years, which is also a good way to transition.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, before you transition, you also email at choosestrongpodcast@sallymccrae.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Plenty of ways to get hold of Sally.
Yes. And I forgot that email account existed because Eddie manages it. Thank goodness. So why don't we go ahead and just dive in fact, why don't we just start with a really quick background on the Choose Strong Project? For those of you that weren't able to listen to the podcast before this, which you can go back and listen to it. It's 17 minutes long, where I break down the project, why I started it, the inspiration behind it. But I'm just going to give you a quick run through really quick. The Choose Strong Project, it was inspired by my mom, my late mom, who passed away when I was 17. And I knew that the age that she passed away was young, it was 43. And so I always anticipated, sometimes in a negative way, sometimes a positive way, of what my life would look like when I was 43. And I hit a point in my life where I said, I want to be strong and healthy when I'm 43. I want to have a different story, a different outcome than she did. And so when 2022 hit, it became a kind of an emotional time for me. I'd say as soon as we hit January 2022, I knew this is going to be a big year and I want to make the most of it. And so I started to think about what could I do to honor her and honor her strength. And so I came up with this project. And in some ways, I feel like it is a little intense because the project is 6 races and they're all very close together and they're all long. So they're all 100 miles or longer. With the exception of the one in Switzerland, which is about 108 miles.
And your last one.
108 miles. That one's 108K. Okay. Oh, yeah, the last one. The last one, Eddie's going to join me.
It's intense for me, but not for you.
And what race is that?
That's the Malibu half marathon.
Oh, shoot. I keep calling it the Ventura half marathon.
Ventura County, but
Malibu. I don't even know the name of it.
Deal, yeah.
Okay. Malibu half marathon, which I feel like I'll probably just cry that whole time. So the reason why it's 6 races is because I'm racing a mile for every month that my mom lived. And so I really wanted to end the project with Eddie running those final miles with him. So
yeah, that'll be cool.
That'll be super cool. So the 6 races, every piece of this project is meaningful to me and why I chose the races that I did. So it started with Badwater 135, which we're going to talk about today. And that race course itself is very personal to me because it is one of the most beautiful metaphors, I feel like, to life and specifically to my life. The race starts at the lowest point and at I would say 280 feet below sea level, I believe. I could be totally wrong on that. It's like 280, 260 below sea level. And then it climbs, the original course, climbs to the top of Mount Whitney, which is the tallest peak in the lower 48 states. So this idea that you are traveling from the lowest low to the highest of the high through all these different elements, these different environments over 3 mountain passes, the hottest place on the planet. And then of course, the Eastern Sierra, which it snows up there. I love the beauty of that course and the very grueling challenge that it is just to complete it. So Badwater 135, I thought would be a great way to kick off the project. It was really interesting because I did Badwater 135 and I thought that would probably be the last time that I'd run it because I achieved the goal and the dream that I had for myself to win that race. I wanted to be a Badwater champion. And I knew doing this project that is not my goal. My goal is to finish this project strong, do each race strong. Medals and podium placements is not why I'm doing this. This isn't about, me displaying like, look, I can win first place at every single one of these races. That is not the important part to me. It's giving my best with what I have each time and really telling a story along the way. So I don't know if you want to add to that before I continue, Ed.
I just want to add that Badwater Basin is 280 feet. Actually, 282 feet.
That is close. Thank you.
That's all I want to add.
I love that.
Just some facts.
Well, while we, should we tell them the nice long journey of me saying yes to this race and no to the race for men?
Yeah, that was quite the roller coaster.
So now the Badwater story begins. At the beginning of every year, I craft my crafting my race, usually my race schedule starts in November is when I really start thinking about the races I'm going to do in the following year. And that's usually around the time too, when I start getting invited to races and I kind of start meshing, like really digging through what is it that I want to do next year. And sometimes it's fueled by where do I want to go and what I want to see. What have I not explored yet? And I was in November thinking like, gosh, should Badwater be one of the races? Should it not? So I would say out of anyone in my life, Eddie knows the ins and outs of me and he knows all my secrets and he knows everything about my running, my training, my schedule, everything. And I talk to him the most about my plans and my goals and my expectations. And I would say that it was on a monthly basis, maybe twice a month, that I would say to him, I'm totally doing Badwater. And then it was, no, I'm not doing Badwater.
Yeah, I was back and forth it was a few months for sure. Because
Yeah.
I was very confused and it was, back and forth a lot.
I think one of the biggest reasons too is just having won it last year and then go back with these other goals in mind and knowing that as every year I like to compete. I like to get on that podium. That's also my job is to race hard and well and strong and to do my best to get on that podium. And so I think that was always just in the back of my mind. Like I did it the year before. And so what was it going to look like this year? Like, why wouldn't I come back this year and want to do that again? Why would I toe the line and just, and actually not have that as a focus? And especially because it's my job, that should be a focus. So, I struggled with that. And then I just came to terms with, like this Choose Strong project really started to take shape and I just changed my perspective. I think that's really how I committed to the race was I'm changing my perspective and I'm going to write a story and I'm going to create a community that other people can join.
And what a better race to start with, right? Like Badwater, like the most gnarly, Death Valley to Mount Whitney. That's pretty epic to start with. Right? Mm-hmm.
For those of you that are not familiar with Badwater 135, the original course, as I said earlier, it does start at Badwater Basin out near Furnace Creek in the Death Valley National Park. And you run from that point, that sign, all the way to the top of Mount Whitney. Now it ends at the portal of Mount Whitney, which is about 8,300 feet above sea level. So there's a good amount of climbing the race, a little over 14,000 feet. You do climb over these mountains. I think by the time we hit around mile 90, it's one of the most spectacular things is to look back and see how much of the desert and the climbs that we have crossed. Typically, it is extremely hot. Chris Kosman, the race director, does choose to put this race on at the hottest time of the year. And so it's not uncommon that temperatures are reaching 120, 125. The hottest that it ever recorded was 128, and that was in 2018. And so this race is brutal. There's no shade. And so you're fully exposed and in this heat the entire time. And this year too, even when the sun was down on both sides, because there's 3 wave starts, an 8 p.m., 9:30, and 11 p.m. It was hot when we started with the sun down. And when the sun went down again, It was still hot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I never felt like a coolness.
No, it was
was,
very hot.
yeah, it was really hot. So my goals and expectations going in to this race were to really create the start of a story of the Choose Strong project. And my goal was to finish this race well. I was going to give my best with what I had. I'm fit. I trained every single day. I did due diligence, even though my goal wasn't, I need to get on the podium. I knew I'm still going to bring my best in training each day. I'm going to bring my best in recovery and what I'm eating. And I really felt great on race day. A lot of the questions that people I know are going to ask is, what was your running mileage? So my running mileage never went beyond 90 miles. And in the other 2 years that I trained for Badwater, I was running consistently between 100 and 120 miles and sometimes more than that a week. So my weekly mileage never went past 90 miles per week. A lot of times it was, consistently just at 65 and 80 miles per week. But the thing is that I've been consistently training, since I last did Badwater last year. So I've maintained some really good fitness. I added in other forms of long cardio. So I was doing 30 and 40 mile bike rides. I would add in some really long training sessions in the gym, climbing sessions on the treadmill, climbing sessions on the stair mill, all these aside from the running miles. And yeah, having really strong training sessions each day. So on average, I work out twice a day. And I do work out. So I do a lot of fartlek style stuff in the lead up to this. A lot of strides, hill repeats, and long runs and back-to-back long runs. So I did feel very strong going into this race. And I was very confident that I would be running this race faster than I did last year. And the reason why is because last year I had diarrhea the entire time. And I knew that, okay, if I had diarrhea the entire race and I was able to finish in 30 hours, this year, if I don't have diarrhea, and I feel fitter, then I should be able to run it, faster. So I guess we'll just go ahead and dive into the race start to the first 50 miles. So we got to the start line around 10 p.m. and what is that? I guess Eddie kind of explained to us what that is like when we arrive at the start line. I feel like it's the weirdest experience. You can't even explain it to people because there's not a lot of footage of it.
Yeah, I actually love the start because we start from Furnace Creek and we have to drive to Badwater Basin, which is 17 miles. Mm-hmm. And all the other waves have already started. So, we're trying to get there at 10 p.m. and, the 8 o'clock and the 9:30 have already started. And so all you see is these runners with their blinky lights and their headlamps coming towards you. And they, and their crew cars are coming with their lights towards us, it's a neat, and it's pitch black out there.
And we're the only ones out there. I think that's interesting too, is all of a sudden you hit this long line of cars and all these blinky lights of runners, and it's pitch black.
Yeah, it's really cool because they're all at that point of the race, right? They're pretty close still. They're not very spread out, and so you can just see all these, especially in the distance, you can see the lights coming, and it's a really cool kind of start to the race. And then finally, obviously, you get there, and it's neat because then you guys got to weigh yourself, right? You gotta weigh in. Yeah. I do want to say Eddie's avoiding this because the last 2 years Eddie has picked my race song as we drive to the start. And last year he's like, I'm going to surprise you. And Eddie knows all the music I love. We are music junkies, I would say. We listen to everything. But last year, what song did you choose? I was like, what is this song? This is not my pump up song. What was it? It was the Phil Collins song. What's the name of it? He's going to look it up right now because he can't even remember it. It was so good. I literally thought you were going to play Don't Stop Believin' or something like that. Or one of my favorite U2 songs or something that I always, some funky hip hop, No, I think
90s
honestly,
music.
I can't remember the name. I'm trying to look it up, but it was that song by Phil Collins where I've been dreaming about this night for so long, whatever.
Yeah.
I think I remember I was listening.
I've been dreaming about this night.
No, I
So
don't think that's how it goes.
long.
But
So long.
anyways, I was like on a Phil Collins kick. I think leading up to
He was on a Phil Collins kick. I was
yes.
not.
But In the Air Tonight.
Yeah.
In the Air Tonight. Great song. And I remember listening to this song leading up to Badwater, and I'm like, man, this is, I guess just that line maybe, but then it's like, you've been kind of like, this whole year I was watching you lead up to, that start line and all the time and all the sacrifice you put into, that race. And I was like, man, this is such a cool, that line at least was really cool. And then obviously the whole sound of that song is amazing because when the drums come in.
Look, and he's like feeling it right now. Yes. But this year was especially cool because I had written the crew. So Eddie, our crew is Colin Cooley, David Daly, and Sarah Tarr, who were all on the crew last year. So it was the exact same crew as we had last year. And they mesh so well. Like, you guys are just like this well-oiled machine. And so in the morning, I sent this really long text. It was just thoughts on the race going in. This is my mindset, which I think is so important as a runner to convey to your crew. If you do ultras and you have people supporting you, it's important that they understand your mindset, your perspective, your goals, and like what your focus is, so that they can be in harmony with that and help you maintain that and stay with that. So, but one of the things that I did was I shared a few things about my mom, and basically this race, 135 miles, represents her age up until she's 12 years old. And so I shared a few things about her that I love, just little details that not a lot of people know, like that she loved Good and Plenty and Junior Mints, and she liked the color purple, and that she's an amazing dancer, and she was shy, but like around people that she was close to and that she knew, she was really silly and funny and would dance and sing around the house. And I then shared her favorite song was by the Police called King of Pain. And King of Pain it's if you've never listened to that song, you need to listen to it. The lyrics are amazing. And in some ways it's kind of sad.
You want to sing a little bit of it?
I just might bust out here in a minute, but we were sitting there driving to the start line this year, which is so weird to think, Ed, that was 5 days ago that we were doing that, or 6 days ago, this Monday. Today's Sunday. It was on Monday that we raced. So, but Eddie started playing King of Pain. And then of course I started tearing up, and I had purple ribbons in my hair and purple socks on and lipstick. My mom always wore this bright lipstick. So I wore bright lipstick at the start. I didn't reapply it or anything, but the drive there this year was very special. And I felt just so much at peace. But continuing on, for those of you interested in this race, yes, this is the one race that still weighs you. In the beginning, when I first started ultras in 2010, everyone, like, you were always weighed at 100-mile races. And personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm fine, like my weight, I'm fine sharing my weight. I always have. I don't have a problem with the number on a scale. But I think even in the sports world, the reason why that we did it in ultras for so long was because it was, if someone lost too much weight, then it was a sign that they were severely dehydrated, or there was these other medical like issues. And so sometimes people were pulled off the course and they were made to stay in an aid station until they got their weight back up. And there has since been a lot of studies that have shown this actually isn't totally accurate. There's a wealth of other symptoms that are far more important that you need to pay attention to. And so anyway, they still do it, and no arguments. The race is pretty old school in a lot of things that they do, but because Badwater is so extreme, it is not uncommon that you are going to lose weight while you're out there. And I do every year. I feel like I finish and I just look like sick.
Do they do that for the race?
They used to do it for Western States. The first year I did it in 2014. Yes, I think 14 and 15 they did it. And I was so annoyed because you're like in this huge room with like so many people and all these runners and volunteers. And they're like, all right, you're 110 you know? Yeah, I mean, they have to, like, there's one person at the scale, and then they're telling the other person what it is, and then they give you a wristband that has your weight on it. I mean, it's just like, it's
Sharpie.
Yeah, big Sharpie. Yeah. So for people that don't, want to announce their weight at a time, like sometimes that was really nerve wracking, but
so Western States.
No, all the races have stopped doing it now. And, but like I said, Badwater is extreme. And so it is important that you just get as much data as possible on the athletes. So that's the way that I understand it, is they just want to make sure that if they get to you, if they do have to send medical out, they already have, all right, here is her weight. And they even encourage you to for your crew to have a scale in the car. In case your runner is in a lot of trouble, weigh them. And if you find out, oh my gosh, they're 15 pounds down, which my first year doing it by mile 50, I was 10 pounds down. And I was like puking and just, wasn't having a good day out there. But anyway, so we get to the start. I'd say the first 20 miles was amazing. I'm cruising. The first 25 miles was awesome. The first 30 miles, I had no issues. I mean, you guys were handing me my bottles and I was just cruising along. I don't think I slowed down at all until mile 30, probably around mile 36. If you go on my Strava, you can see my run is posted, but you'll start to see some like 10, 11, and 12-minute miles like in there. Everything else, I was like, I'll just cruise like around a 9-minute pace. If there's a few 8s in there.
Well, you had a goal, right? Getting to 42.
42, yeah. That's the
first pacer.
Yeah, 42 is also the first timing station. Well, no, it isn't. It's the second timing station. So the first timing station is 18 miles in or 17 and a half miles in Furnace Creek. And then Stovepipe Wells, my goal was to get in between 7 hours and, between 7 hours, 7.5 hours at the most is when I wanted to get in there. And I got in there in 7 hours and 6 minutes. So I was already an hour faster than I was last year, or maybe even a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Hour and 20 minutes. So I was having a great day, but at around mile like 35, 36, I felt something I've never felt in my hip before. And I thought, gosh, it's so weird, because I knew I didn't have anything lingering or anything that I typically don't run through stuff. If there's something bothering me when I'm training, I address it and assess it right away. And that's also why I go to the gym so much. I start my day at the gym and I mobilize and I assess my body. And if there's anything that is off, then I won't do like a hard run that day. I might just do like an easy run, or I'll get to a PT instead. And that's kind of how I stay injury free. Like I just make sure that I'm always on top or ahead of anything. So when I felt this, I thought, okay, first of all, I feel like I'm running easy. I'm not running fast. It wasn't like running at a, sub 6 minute pace. Like I was just in cruise mode. I was having fun. I was enjoying myself. I knew that I was easily going to get into Stovepipe Wells in 7 hours, well above my goal time. I knew I could easily run this race. I shouldn't say easily. That's the wrong word to use when it comes to Badwater. That's like an oxymoron. I knew that I could manage to run this race under 29 hours. I really wanted it to be under 28 hours, but I was like, this is a good, like, this great pace. Like I'm definitely on track for that. So
I remember the first, probably 30-ish miles. Every time we would see you mile and a half, either give you a bottle, ask if you needed one. You'd always just, you weren't stopping. You were just kind of cruising. And you would say, give me at the next stop, give me, coconut water. And all right, thank you. I love you guys. You just keep going. After that mile 30, I don't know if I heard I love you guys. That kind of stuff.
Because that was me assessing the fact that something isn't right. Yeah.
When you were feeling good, you would always kind of run away. Love you guys. All right, let's go.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Yes, he is right. There were a couple times too that I took some Tums or some Pepto-Bismol caplets or whatever. Yeah. Because then I also noticed, I was like, oh, my stomach noticed my stomach was like a little bit upset. And then I also noticed, oh, my back's like a little achy. This is so weird. Oh my gosh, all the symptoms of PMSing. And I had told Eddie before the race, and I was actually super bummed that I hadn't started my period yet. And sorry for this part of I'm just going to dive straight in without warning here. But I had told Eddie, I handed him a bag of tampons and I said, listen, I'm going to start my period. And I was really hoping that I wouldn't, but I have had one or two other races where I've started my period in the race and they have turned out to be pretty horrific racing results. So for me, and every woman is different, I usually get some type of fluish symptom. So intestinally, I don't always feel that great. My lower back hurts. And usually I feel something in a joint. So when I'm training and I'm around my cycle, I will know, like sometimes I'll have a weird pain in my ankle or a weird pain in my hip or my lower back. And I just know, yep, it's because I'm on my cycle. I'm just off. So I didn't put two and two together yet as I made my way to Stovepipe Wells. And I told myself, well, Towns Pass, which is a 16-mile climb, I know I'll do a lot of power hiking there. So maybe I will allow my hip to relax. I'm just going to go straight into Stovepipe. I'll check in. I'll run all the way through. It'll be great. So that was my plan. I got in an hour and 20 minutes ahead of my projected goal pace. I was feeling awesome. Great energy, body felt strong, legs felt amazing, but my hip was just doing something that I've never felt before. As we started to power hike up Towns Pass in hopes of giving it a little bit of break, at this time, Dave Daly was pacing me, and I began to notice it just started to feel worse. And it felt worse power hiking. And then as I neared the 50-mile point, I started projectile vomiting. And that was like weird because it wasn't that hot yet. And maybe that's just because I'm so well heat trained that I mean, the heat never really was like exhausting me even at this point. The sun was now up. We hit the 50-mile point, which is the first crucial cutoff time. It's 11 hours that you have to get there, but that's 11 hours from the start. So people in the third wave, which is my wave, we all kind of have a handicap. The people in the 8 o'clock wave, they get that extra 3 hours. People in the 9:30 wave, they get an extra hour and a half. And then we get the short end of the stick. So everyone in the third wave, even if you're moving quick, you usually come in like with an hour and a half to spare from when that, from the cutoff time. So
yeah, you were moving, you were doing really well. And it was like an hour before the cutoff, which is crazy because
yeah, I was moving.
You were doing really well. And you only made it by an hour. I was actually talking to the medic probably a mile, like 55-ish. And he said he was at that cutoff, and he says tons of people just barely made minutes. Like there's waves of people coming in minutes before that cutoff.
Oh, that made it.
Yeah, that made it.
Yeah.
Because it's just,
isn't that so amazing? Hot, I just love that they all made it because it's like there's something inside that they're.
I will admit this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like if people that have run Badwater, I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why they drop out, or it has to be like the second major reason. It's not because they weren't fit enough or weren't well heat trained or weren't prepared. It's like they weren't able to make that first. Yeah. It's the harshest cutoff because once you make that, all the rest of them are awesome. Like
yeah, the next one was like 12 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like 20 miles or something. So as I got up higher and higher up Towns Pass, I knew that we were going to have a long day with the leg. I was still above goal time, but once we got to the top of Towns Pass and it was time to descend, I think that is where I knew that my idea of running a faster Badwater needed to be let go. And the backside of Towns Pass, so we've climbed 1,600 feet. You've climbed, I believe it's like 4,800 feet of climbing over the course of 16 miles. You then descend 5-6 miles into the belly of the desert as you make your way toward the Panamint Springs aid station timing checkpoint, that's mile 77, I believe.
72.
Oh no, 72. Yeah, mile 72. So you descend. So it's like a total of 10 miles from the descent down the mountain and then across like the belly of the desert. And as I began to descend, which is my strength, I love descending. I'm very strong on descents. My hip capsule, it almost felt like someone took my leg and jammed it straight up into that hip socket. And I started to have a hard time being able to just make that running position, like get my leg into a running motion and be able to perform a leg swing and bend my knee for a leg swing. There's a couple pictures and videos online right now where you can see Colin. I'm with him behind the van and he's holding up my lower leg as he tries to work on my leg because I couldn't even lift my leg to give it to him. And he'd be like, all right, I'm gonna work on you. Give me your leg. And I was like, you have to pick it up. And so when I realized, oh my gosh, I can't even like get into that position. I was like, what is this? Because it didn't feel, I knew I wasn't injured. It wasn't like something ripped or something tore. There wasn't a pull. I kept on saying it was IT band, but I was like, it's not IT band, but it kind of feels like it's IT band. It's like in that socket. And thankfully, Colin is pretty well versed on body work. And so he was trying all different things. He taped me up. He, rubbed into the IT band with a Theragun. I think we used a Theragun every few miles just to try to loosen me up. And yeah, I think at that point, as the miles went on, I do know that I became pretty negative inside. I don't know how much of this was projected to my crew, but I usually get pretty quiet when I'm in pain or when I'm upset. I just turn inward and start to really think about what is going on. And at this point is when Eddie came out. This is his first time pacing me. I said, send Eddie out because I was just like, he's the only person I wanted to be with at this point. I was mentally frustrated. Here I am at the beginning of the Choose Strong project and I'm falling apart. Like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, this is like a weird thing I can't identify. And I can usually identify any injury, like, or any like problem and make sense of it and work through it. And so I said, send Eddie out. And I'm giggling because I'm like, this is the hottest part of the race. Eddie hasn't paced me before. And we have a video of this too. I should actually, somehow if we could put it into the show, it'd be pretty awesome. But Eddie comes out behind me and I have now at this point developed this really weird looking shuffle. And it's, the only way I can like run is I get into like this cowboy stance. I'm trying to like take my feet really far apart. And I have to get myself psyched up because running hurts very bad. It's an excruciating feeling of my leg going up into my socket and kind of being jammed with every step. And so I just tell myself, but we can run for 60 to 90 seconds. So I get myself all worked up. I settle into this awkward run. Eddie's running behind me. He's, trying to keep me cool, put a towel on me, pour water on me. He's feeling the heat of the day. I mean, what did that feel like for you, actually, your first time pacing at Badwater?
Well, once you said I can bring Eddie out, I looked at your pace. I was like, all right, I think I can do that. She's got like a walk going on. I'm like, I got this. I got this for a few miles.
This isn't hard.
No, yeah, I think, and our goal as a crew at that point was knowing that you slowed down because of the hip or whatever was going on, that our goal was just to keep you cool, because that was like the hottest part and that valley was just gnarly. And so we wanted to just make sure that you were cool and you were able to kind of keep moving. And that was our goal. So I just went out there and made sure I was keeping you cool and dousing you and keeping your hands cool and top of your head. And so I mean, it was definitely hot, but that was the goal for us.
And I feel like I was pretty grumpy at this point too, because I think it was just the point where I wasn't wearing a hat and you kept telling me to wear a hat.
Yeah, you didn't wear the hat because the hat protected like your neck because it had the little thing coming off the back, right? And then the top, obviously, and then visor.
I had that headband.
Yeah, protect your face. And for whatever reason, you didn't want the hat. I asked you, you should probably put that hat on. You're like, no, I don't want the hat. I'm like, all right, well. And we can see that your face was getting red, and it was, you know, the top of your head was getting just nailed by that sun. And
Yeah.
so for whatever reason you didn't want it, but now looking back, you said it was too tight, right? But you didn't, in the moment, you didn't know.
Yeah, I had it.
Issue.
Yeah, I hadn't adjusted it properly. And so every time I wore it, it would like flopped around everywhere, and that just like drove me crazy. Yeah. But I regret it because I totally burned the top of my head and my my hairline. Like when I brush my hair, it hurts. And sometimes I feel like in the past 3 years I've done Badwater, you tell me about decisions and choices that I make, and they're so dumb. Like, and I think that's one part of this race and why it's so important, especially like with crew, is I'm not always like logical in my thinking because I'm so hot, so tired, or I'm in pain that everything seems annoying to me. So like, put a hat. No, I don't want to put on a hat. I'm hurting. Like everything hurts. Like, and so, but I do regret that. I think eventually though, you guys kept asking me, and then I did because Father Crowley, the next climb, I was wearing one. And thank goodness I was, because it was still the very hottest part of the day. I mean, I would have been burned way more. And I'm thankful no other part of my face was burned. It's just that the hairline part. Yeah, the top of my head. But so we got through to the next aid station, Panamint Springs aid station, mile 72. And now it was time to climb Father Crowley, which is in my opinion, I think it's a tougher climb than the Mount Whitney Portal one, and mainly because of the time of day and what you've just done. So the way it's just put into the race is grueling, and there's no end in sight. There's so many false summits on that climb that it just demoralizes you, especially if you're not doing well. So if you're nauseous, you're struggling with cramping, you're not able to get food down. In my case, no step was comfortable for me. I was wincing at every single step. And at this point too, as we neared mile 80, I realized, I thought, I have 55 more miles, and I've mostly been power hiking for the last 15. And I remember Colin was at this point hiking up with me, and Colin always hikes with me at this point. And he's very positive. He knows how tough it is. And he always makes me turn around and look back and see how far I've come. And he videoed this part for like 90 seconds. I love it. But he's just like, look at everything you've already done. And I remember thinking in my mind, I can't believe that I did cover all of that ground. I went over that mountain pass. I crossed the belly of the desert, like mileage that I can't even see now. That's further than the eye can see. In a lot of it was uncomfortable. And now I'm thinking, okay, I have 55 more miles, and there's a very good likelihood that I'm not going to be able to run any of it. I've never walked 55, 70 miles in my life. And for those of you listening, you might be thinking, well, gosh, it's probably a lot easier than running. Well, the reality is the muscles you use running and the muscles you use power hiking, they're a little bit different. Yes, you're still on your upright on your legs, but the way your feet hit, your stride, your gait, and if you remember, if you think about it, you're loading longer when you're walking. When you're running, you don't load as long. It's a quicker leg turnover. So the feeling on your body is different. And I knew that. I knew this is going to be a struggle. On the flip side, I kept thinking about the crew. Oh my gosh, we are going to be out here way longer. You know, I don't want to be out here longer. And so I did experience a really dark moment where I thought, this is nothing like I thought it would be. And why the heck is it like this every time I do Badwater? I mean, every year I do these podcasts after I do Badwater, and it's just this story of these challenges and this overcoming and this thing that I was dealing with and how tough it was, and not being able to put together a smooth and well-executed race. I mean, in many ways, Badwater continues to humble me to my core. And I always look back and think, well, did I not train enough? Was I not fit enough? Was I not heat acclimated? Like, what did I overlook? And I feel like with every year, I gain more knowledge and wisdom and insight with all this experience that I have to know how to go into this race well prepared. I know what to do. And I think what I learned this time as I continued on to mile 90 now, what I learned was this is a new challenge for me. The walking is something I've never done. And now we are going to learn to walk. We're going to learn to walk.
Yeah, I mean, and just back to your point about how it's very awkward and like different than running. It's almost like harder because I remember asking Dave when he came into the van, he paced you, I think at that point for another like 2 hours or something. And that was when you were walking, and he says it really hurt. And he's like, what, 6'3", I think, and pretty tall, and has long legs. And he says it's really hard to kind of keep that pace as a walker versus like a jog or whatever, because it was just an awkward, like, I don't know like how to explain it, but he said it was really weird and hard to do that for 2 hours versus running for 2 hours in the heat,
Absolutely. And I think that's such a good thing to talk about, because one of the things that I did do in my training this year that I have not done the last 2 times that I've run Badwater was I did practice powerful power hiking. So I would go out into the canyons and I would run 3 miles, and then I would power hike as hard as I could for a mile. And it was, I mean, I was not expecting the foreshadowing of this, but I actually did train to power hike.
Let me jump in real quick, because you typically, just in general, ever since I've known you, have always been just a fast walker.
My mom was a fast walker.
And well, and me, I've always been like a slow walker. Like I just like to.
Eddie chills.
Well, it's not like
to the point where I'm like, seriously?
No, it's not even on purpose. It's like that's how I walk.
He's just like, if you're watching this right now, he's like, what's up?
No, that's not it. It's just how I walk. Like I'm not very fast. And you've always been a fast walker, so it's like whenever we go on like a family walk, it's like, okay, can we just like be slow? Like can we just like relax?
No.
Like not. I don't need to get anywhere right now. But so I remember, so back to the when you were really using that power hike strategy of really, you were already a fast walker, then you like started to do the power hike, and I was pacing you at that time for a while, about an hour, and I remember coming back to the van and instantly like the front of my shins were like hurting. Like that was like weird.
I stressed him out.
Yeah, it felt like I was like almost had to jog to like keep up with you.
Yeah,
my walk is so slow, and you're such a fast walker. So you covered a lot of ground in that time because of that power hike. And I know when Sarah jumped in for a couple hours.
Sarah's amazing power hike. So yeah, Sarah is my mountain girl. Sarah's incredible. If you don't know her, you need to follow her. And I'll put all my crew's Instagram handles in there to follow. But Colin had, I think it was around mile 95-ish. He kind of challenged me. He's like, listen, Sally, you need to aim for 4 miles an hour. And I was like, that's actually pretty good, which is a 15-minute mile per hour walk. Now, if you walked at a 15-minute pace on the treadmill, set the treadmill for 4.0 miles per hour. We're talking miles right now. It's a solid clip. I mean, it's a solid like speed walk clip. You can use your arms and everything like that. And I just thought, whether I'm walking or running, like running was way more pain for me, but walking was just painful. I felt like there was this wincing that would happen when I was trying to do that shuffle run, which I think when I look at my watch, I was going at like 14-minute pace. If I was able to shuffle run, it was 14 minutes of pace, which is pretty much still a walk.
Well, yeah, because you were doing that, I was pacing you at that point.
I do it for like 60 seconds. Yeah, I was trying to bank time.
But even for me following you, I felt like your power hike was almost like as fast.
Yeah, and Dave and Colin both said the same thing. Yeah. They're like, Sally, you're trying to do this weird, awkward run. Your power hike is actually more powerful. So,
but it's interesting because you're probably like, no, I want to run this, and I want to do something other than just walk. And so in your mind,
and you're right. I think that was the competitive side of me, where I was like, I am not walking this, But then it was like I was basically forced to. I couldn't get my leg to bend and do what I wanted it to do in order to run. It just didn't happen. So as we neared mile 90 or 91, I had been passed already by this point by a few women. And Colin and I stepped off of into the dirt, and he tried again to loosen up my leg. And I look up as he's trying to, I'm holding on to like a signpost, like a stop sign or something as he's doing this. He's trying to loosen up my hip, and I'm standing in the dirt, and I'm looking off in the distance, and I'm realizing, wow, the sun's about to set. And last year at this time, I was already well past 100 miles. And I think I was like, when the sun was setting, I think it was like 110 miles in already. And now it's like mile 90 something, and the sun's already setting. So I was a little sad. I knew like, wow, I can't believe how much time has passed. Well,
really quick, I know you're going to tell the story, but can you, I'm trying to think, like, for people listening to that, what does that do for you mentally? As you know, last year I was ahead of this because I'm seeing the sun, and now the sun's going down, right?
Yeah.
And what does that do to you mentally after you've covered 100 miles and now you're like, oh my gosh, like the sun's going down, and I was further last year. Like, how did
we had 45 miles left of this. Yeah, it was around 90, 94. So we had a little over 45 miles left.
Yeah. So what does that do to you? Like, what does that do to you as a competitor, as you're trying to race, and you're knowing obviously you have a hip issue or something's going on that you don't know about and you don't know what it is, but mentally, how do you like push through that? Like, what do you do?
I think that's a great question. I do get asked that a lot. In fact, I've noticed since posting, after I posted, the race, us crossing the finish line, that pic, I noticed that a lot of people commented about not only like just pushing through that challenge, but walking, not really understanding like how do you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to walk, for this long, when last year at this point I was winning. Mm-hmm. I did go through a few, I think I did go through a few waves of emotions, even with you guys. I feel like I definitely have moments where I was really grumpy because I don't like feeling weak. And I think that's a very normal human response. I don't think anybody listening enjoys that. We don't like to feel, whether it's feeling weakness, either like sitting in school and feeling like, gosh, I just feel like I don't understand this math problem, or like in work, just feeling like you can't like wrap your mind around getting this load of work done. Like it just is overwhelming to you. It weakens you. And then at the same time, like in training, like when you feel all of your weaknesses come out, it's easy to lose confidence and belief. I think I've been there so many times that at Badwater this year, I had to hit a point, and it was very soon actually after Colin had loosened up my leg, and I was like, all right, we got a little over 45 miles left. I had to tell myself, I'm not finishing, obviously on the podium, not finishing fast. I'm not going to feel good. The rest, it's not going to happen again. I haven't felt good for many, many hours. I haven't felt good for the last 35 miles. And in fact, the more that I fatigued, the worse I'm going to feel, because the more we fatigue, the more our defenses come down. Like our body starts to kind of raise a white flag and surrender, saying I'll do anything to rest. Like I can't fight off the pain anymore. I can't. And I think I was feeling that. You guys actually pulled me into the car 2 times at this point, and they let me sleep. I think one time was for 15 minutes, and then another time was...
Well, the first one, you after 15, and we gave you 12.
Yeah.
We woke you up after 12.
Yeah. They know I don't, and we always talk about it before the race, don't let me sleep, don't let me come in. But this was an unusual amount of fatigue. I mean, I was literally moving and closing my eyes.
So when I was pacing at that point, I came to the car and said, she needs to sleep. And I told them, I said, you're literally closing your eyes while you're running. And now that, you're kind of at that point, not going to get first place. You're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's be safe here. And,
Mm-hmm.
and we thought it was a good idea to let you sleep for, 12 minutes.
12 minutes. I asked for 15. They gave me 12 and it felt like 1 minute.
Yeah. You fell asleep right away.
I fell asleep right away. I think I do remember dreaming in that. It was a very, very deep sleep. And that one I felt incredible. So I woke up in those next few hours. I actually, as far as alertness goes, I felt great. And that was actually back around mile, I'd say like 55, cause that was that first one. The second one though, came after we realized I was hallucinating. So we'll go ahead and jump into hallucination because I've gotten so many requests for the hallucination stories. So just a quick background. Despite the fact I've been running ultras for over 12 years now, I've never experienced hallucination. The closest thing that I've got to seeing something is just like a shadow, like in the middle of the night thinking, oh, that boulder looks like a bear, that stick looks like a snake. But like, I see that sometimes like when I'm just out running, like if I'm on a 2-hour run, I'll be like, oh shoot, that looked like a snake. Or so I've never experienced full-blown hallucinations. In fact, I didn't even understand what it was until Colin was running behind me, and he's the one that was like, oh my gosh, you're hallucinating. Because Colin and I, now we're at mile like 95, 96. And I say to him, I start seeing all of these things in the sand, but we're having great conversation. I'm totally coherent. The sun is just now setting. So it's kind of like civil light, like the sky is like that, sherbet sky. And it's just, the sun isn't completely dark yet. And I started noticing we're running on the white line, and right next to the white line is the sand, and it's all bushes. You got the desert bushes all along the way. And I started staring down on the ground, and I was like, who put this stuff out here? What is this? And it looked like jewelry. And so I'm staring at the ground, and it looked like jewelry. And then it was like these giant dominoes, like dominoes as big as like a shoebox. And they were all different colors. Well, no, they were red and blue. And then all the jewelry was like black and purple. And it was like sparkly. And so I'm like, who put this out here? And Colin's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, all this like stuff right here. Like, this is crazy. And then I just continued talking about what we were talking about. I think he was talking about Fiona, his daughter, and like, swim class and stuff like that. We're having a normal conversation. And then again, he sees me. I'm now bent over running, staring at the ground because I'm freaking out. So I'm like, dude, this is like a mile long of all this stuff. And Colin's like, wait a minute, tell me what you see. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're hallucinating. And I was like, no, I'm not. Colin, I've never hallucinated in my life. I'm 100% here with you. Like, I'm awake. Hello. Like, we're having a logical conversation. But oh my gosh, there's someone sitting on a couch right there and they're playing guitar. He's like, so then by this time, so this goes on for like 10 minutes. By this time, then it is dark. And he's like, I'm going to flash my light onto the bushes and tell me if you still see it when I flash my light on the bushes. So he flashed his light on the things that I'm seeing. And as soon as he did that, they were gone. And I think that was the most difficult thing for me as I ran, because these hallucinations continued for many hours. I mean, until we've gotten to, I'd say, a few miles from the turn into Lone Pine, until the sun was rising, really. So we went looking. They would tell me, Sally, you need to look at the white line. Don't look over at the sand because you are hallucinating and you're seeing things. Look at the white line. And then, when Dave would pace me, he'd just say, Sally, just let me know and I'll shine my light over there for you and show you that it's not what you're seeing. But I'll tell you what, you guys, you want to know the stuff that I was seeing? At one point, I looked to my left and it was 1,000 canoes spread across the sand. And then I'd run a little bit further and it was like these Looney Tune, like big bubbly characters, all different colors. They were like half people type shapes. And they were big and moving in weird ways. Like they moved their body as if they were like in water. As the night went on, anything that was like a creature or a person would start to try and get me. And that's when I started to become afraid, and I started running like in the street. But there was a few times that these shapes, I remember this, it was almost like an alligator, but it had like a clown face. And as I got closer to it, all these things would be right on the sand, right next to the white line, right next to the road. As I would get closer to it, it would elongate its body. So it would make its body really long. And by long, I mean like 20 feet long. And I would get really worked up, like, oh my gosh, the closer I get to it, it's gonna come get me. It's gonna get me. So this continued on for hours, and it got to a point where, of course, the crew is laughing, whoever's pacing me is laughing, that I was like, I can't even share this anymore because I sound crazy to myself, and I'm in shock that no one can see what I'm seeing. And I think at one point I had to stop and go to the bathroom, and this is where the crew completely made fun of me. You guys are so mean.
No, well, we had to have a little fun with it. But I remember driving the van, and at one point, because the pacer at this is always on the white line behind you. They're not allowed to go in front of you. If they can go to the side of you, that's okay, as long as they're giving you like a bottle. Right? Like, that's the rules. But remember, it's pitch black, and all of a sudden, Colin kind of jumps into the bushes, and he's probably 10 feet from you, running alongside you, flashing his light. And we're in the van, we're thinking like, what is he doing? Like, did she lose something? Did he lose something? Like, why is he out there? And then obviously when he came back, he was telling us that, you're seeing submarines and you're seeing dinosaurs and dominoes.
But then I actually saw a rattlesnake.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was crazy. So I'm telling Colin, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like lawn chairs. So then it wasn't canoes. Then it was like 1,000 lawn chairs, oversized, big, plush like lawn chairs, like the resort style lawn. Like I'm telling, oh, you got to see this and this and this. And then I was like, oh my gosh, a rattlesnake. And he's like, Sally, there's no rattlesnake. And then right as he says that, it starts to rattle, and he just jumped straight up in the air. He took a video of it. And then I got all freaked out that there was a rattlesnake. It was a legit rattlesnake right there. Coming off the sand right onto the road. So it's so weird that I can distinguish that.
Yeah, that was
so I'm
weird.
saying all the stuff that I don't see, and then I actually do see something that's real. But then I stop, and I'm like, we have to tell everyone behind us. Like, that's the rule. When you're on the trail and there's a rattlesnake, you always tell the people behind you. And if anyone else is around, and Colin's like, Sally, just keep running. I will tell them it's okay. Because we could hear people behind us. Yeah. The desert's so quiet. Yeah. That even if people are a few hundred meters behind you, few hundred meters behind you, you can hear their conversation. It's really interesting.
I mean, we're standing outside the van waiting for you. We cruise up mile and a half ahead of you, and we get out of the van, and you're just having a conversation with whoever was pacing you at the time.
Yeah.
Like, we can hear you guys. Like, it's weird.
It's so weird. There are no secrets in the desert. Yeah, it's very interesting. So we knew there was someone behind us. So Colin went back. And all I remember as I kept moving forward was these people who were behind us were like, oh, heck no. Oh, heck no. Like, we do not do rattlesnakes. Like, they were so grateful that we had told them. It was so funny. But that was a first. I've never experienced that in Badwater, seeing a rattlesnake and then, of course, hallucinating. But I stopped to go to the bathroom, and I said something about submarines, and Colin just had a day.
Well, you came over. You're like, I got to go to the bathroom. So you crossed across the street.
Got
the van. Bad. Yeah. Well, no, you just like, I gotta pee. So we're like, okay. And then, it's pitch black, and we're kind of looking over, and Colin's like, well, go wherever you go by the submarine. And I'm like, or if you feel comfortable, go by the dinosaur. I think Colin at one point's like, no, you know what? Even better, go inside the submarine, ask them to use the toilet. You were so like,
was not responding to that. So mean. The good thing, though, that I did notice about this run was I ate the most solid food that I ever have at Badwater. So I was eating noodles. I had avocado. I think I had a sandwich.
Yeah, that was interesting because Dave and Colin, who've been pacing you for
a decade,
years, they kept mentioning like, wow, I've never seen her eat this much real food.
Yeah, I usually don't. That's kind of like my thing in racing. But that was a second thing that I practiced in the lead up to this race was bringing a lot more whole food with me and making myself eat just more whole food and hoping that it would, bring me some good, solid energy. So that was helpful just because we were moving slower, but still had so much ground to cover. I needed to be eating whole foods. So it was awesome. One of the things that is great if you are looking to crew an ultra ever is to bring one of those little camping, what was that thing that Colin had? That little camping, little burner.
Yeah, little mini stove.
Yeah, a little mini stove. He could heat up hot water right away, and I got ramen, and I got rice, and
broth.
Broth. I had some chicken broth. It was incredible. So now, as we made our way, we're now 110 miles in. So we have 25 miles left, and Sarah joins me.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Is that all right?
And at this point, yes, go. I'm going to keep talking. Yes, I got this. So Sarah joins me at this point, and I'll tell you what, she is an incredible power hiker. And if there's anything that I can encourage you in your training, whether it is if you're training for a road marathon or you're training for an ultra, is to practice power hiking. It's a little bit different than just like going on a walk with a cup of coffee with your friend. It's very intentional. It requires you to use your arms, and you still can put those arms into a running position, stand nice and tall. You're practicing that push off, your heel hits the ground and then you roll, push off the ball of your foot and that toe. With Sarah, we were maintaining a 15-minute pace, and we ended up passing, I think, over 10 people, just power hiking. So I felt really rejuvenated at this point too, because now the sun was starting to rise again. And I just knew we're going to finish this race. There isn't any doubt in my mind about it. It is not an ideal situation. It doesn't feel good. I'm in a lot of pain, but we're doing it. That's how you get it done. One step in front of the other. And I knew one of the most important things that I tell people, I tell this to my athletes, is what is the story that you want to write? What is a story that you want to tell the day after a race? And if you are able to push through discomfort, if you're able to sit in an aid station and have a reset and maybe give yourself some energy by eating, talking with your crew, having a little rest and getting back out there, getting to the finish line is always worth it. And I just feel like there's a point where we have to let go of our expectations in order to achieve our goals. And I've learned this lesson over and over again, but like many of you listening, I want to know that I trained hard, and I want my race day to be smooth. I want things to turn out the way that I dream them to be. I want things to turn out, with this triumphant finish. And when they don't, it's hard. When things don't go my way, it's very easy to turn inward and be upset. And it's even easy to convince ourselves, well, I'm just going to save it for another day. I'm going to just take a step off the course, and, I'm done at this race. This isn't what I expected to be. This isn't what I trained for. I'm moving too slow. I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. And so I'm done. And I've done that before myself. I'll be the first to admit that. I've had some DNFs in my career where I just thought, there's no way I'm crawling to the finish. I'm uncomfortable. And listen, sometimes you need to quit a race. So I'm not looking down on anyone that DNFs. I've had DNFs, and many times it's necessary because you do need to still take care of yourself. And especially when you're dealing with organs, or if you have a really bad injury that you're just making permanent or making it worse. So I'm not saying abuse yourself, but what I am saying is be wise in how you think about a challenging situation. Have wisdom, patience, and grace to really assess the situation and ask yourself, would I be okay with going significantly slower if it meant that I could still finish? For some of you, and I've heard these stories before, some of you push through a lot of discomfort and then you don't make the cutoff time. And that's really painful, but you know what? You tried. And I think that is a different story for you. It's like, I did everything I could and I couldn't make the cutoff time. And I think that's a valiant effort, because at the end of the day, all of our racing, these are just checkpoints in the journey to the one finish line that we're getting to. There's only one finish line in life, and that comes at the end of your life. And at the end of the day, if you are able to learn something from every race and apply it to your life, you're just going to get stronger every step of the way. And that's really what I kept telling myself. I knew, okay, I'm not injured. I knew there was something wrong. I kept saying, oh, my hip girdle. Like, I think my legs just jammed. Like, there's something going wrong. And I knew part of it too, it probably had to do with me PMSing. And I thought, this is just a storm of bad luck. And this is what I have to deal with. I can't complain. I'm going to do the best with what I have today. And my best is power hiking. Is it ideal? Is it what I wanted? Nope. But we're still going to get to that finish line. So as we neared Lone Pine, I realized, man, there's something not right in my left foot. Now I have a history, and I love to share this. I do not get black toenails and blisters. And, I've maybe only had a handful of those in my whole career. And so they're very infrequent. It's never been a point of struggle for me. My feet generally do pretty well. And all I do is just wear regular Nike socks and my shoes. I don't use any special lubes or anything. I don't buy bigger shoes. I wear the same size shoes I wear in a high heel, and I keep things simple. I'd say one of the other things I do is I don't let anybody give me a pedicure. I take care of my own feet. And I appreciate the calluses that are there. And so I was pretty confident in my feet until I'm nearing the Lone Pine checkpoint, which is mile 122. And I noticed stuff's really hot. And then I remember, oh my gosh, when you change your running gait, or when you have to compensate, so you're in an awkward position, that is a recipe for blisters. That is a great way to get blisters because you're now moving along in an unnatural position. So I checked into the Lone Pine Aid Station at mile 122, and then I ran out about half a mile, and Eddie pulled the crew car over. I was like, I need to look at my feet. And I take a safety pin off of my bib. I throw some water on the end of it. I take my sock off. It's just my left foot. So the problem is my right hip. And then my left foot, I noticed there's several areas of pain. So I quickly take off my shoe, take off my sock, and I can see this bulging, huge blister off my baby toe. There's a big blister right in the middle of the ball of my foot. There are blisters on the outsides of my heel. So I then take that safety pin and I pop all of them. I open up all those blisters. I throw a Band-Aid on a few of them, put that sock on, put the shoe back on, get back on the road, and oh my gosh, the pain. Can I just say to my listeners, that's the first time that I've experienced that type of blister pain. I did not know how bad that would hurt. It's crazy too that a little skin condition that small can hurt so bad. And I remember Colin saying, he yelled out to me because I was angry about it. I was so mad. I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I open these up? I know better than that. I should have just left them. I should have just left my shoe on. Like, what was I thinking? And again, it's just that fatigue. I'm not thinking straight. I'm so tired. I just want this race to be over at this point. I'm just going to do what I can that I'm thinking in my mind, this is going to make it feel better. And I know better that it's not. And he yells out to me, he's like, Sally, it's like raw nerves, but don't worry, it's going to get better. And I was like, how long is it going to take for it to get better? He's like, I don't know, just move through it. And then pretty soon it'll probably go numb. Well, I don't know how true that was, but I believed him. And so I continued power hiking hard. In fact, I think I even ran a little bit too. And I was angry. And I'll tell you what, anger is passion. Anger is fuel. If you're really tired out on a course and you still have enough energy to be mad, dude, channel that right there. Channel that anger and just let it be rocket fuel for you. So those first few miles, I was hauling up that mountain. I was in so much pain at this point, both in my hip and in my foot. It was just pure anger that this is the race that I was having. I think I was mumbling to myself too, like, I can't believe this, third year in a row, one more thing after another. Like, but Badwater is pure discomfort for me. It is not pure running for me. It is me battling a challenge every mile, and I'm pissed about it. So I had that headspace for several miles, and then I think Dave paced me for like the first 5 miles of that climb. This climb is 12 miles, and then Eddie popped in and started pacing me. And gosh, that was a good section, because we now started to hit a very, very steep climb, but I then just went quiet. And Eddie took some super cool video. I actually posted some of the pictures that he took of me at this point. And I remember I had a moment of kindness where I was like, okay, I need to calm down and realize everything that my crew has endured. I mean, they've endured 34 hours now at this point of me, of Grumpy Sally, of going much, much slower. And my husband is now power hiking behind me. And he just keeps saying, this is so rad. Look at how beautiful this is. Because it was clear as day, blue sky, it was starting to heat up, and we're just staring at Mount Whitney. Right?
Yeah, no, that was a great, I mean, for me, it was awesome. I know you were in some serious pain, but yeah, it was a good, I mean, for me, I know for you to be silent, you were just kind of, it's just pure grit. And
this is 20 years of marriage.
Getting into the pain zone, right? Like you just
when his wife gets silent, what's the question they ask me? What's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you upset?
No, I knew you were in so much pain. Right? Mm-hmm. So, just trying to keep you cool and keep you hydrated, to, keep you one step in front of the other to get to that finish line. That was the goal.
Yeah. And we now, as you paced me in, I think we only had a couple miles left, and Colin then jumped in for like a mile and a half of it. And then what they ask you to do, they say, take the crew car when you're about half a mile out, go find a parking spot, because it's, you might not find parking, and then you want to be able to run in with your runners. So they left Eddie and I about half a mile away from the finish line, and they went and found a parking spot. And then Eddie and I made up our fine. I mean, and you climb like 600 feet in that last, I feel like in the last half mile, it's pretty steep. It's very deceiving. It's actually like a very hard way to finish. It is so steep. And I want to encourage you guys to look at Bob Becker, his finish, who is literally, he's 77 years old. This guy is so incredible, such an inspiration. He's on his hands and knees, crawling in the bear crawl position. He ended up missing getting a buckle and finishing in an official time. He missed that by 17 minutes, I believe. 23 minutes. But by far the most inspirational finish of the day. I mean, I don't know anybody that didn't cry watching that video. I think Outside Magazine actually picked it up and posted it. There's a few other people that have posted. I know it's on the Badwater site, but talk about inspiration. A 77-year-old man who is so intent on finishing this race. And gosh, he had the lean, the runner's lean, which is very painful. It's very hard to breathe. You're in a very awkward position. He already had that, 30 miles before even climbing up the Mount Whitney Portal Road. So the grit and the strength, the mental fortitude that Bob had climbing up to that finish is just unsurpassed. It's pretty amazing. If you want to be inspired, or if you are in doubt, or you're in this low point, you have this lack of confidence, this lack of belief, go watch Bob Becker, 77-year-old man, bear climb up to the finish of at the Mount Whitney Portal to finish Badwater in an unofficial time. So he didn't get a buckle, you guys. And to finish this race because he believed he could, because he wanted to, because that's what he set out to do, regardless of the circumstance. And man, I'm getting chills just talking about it. I'm going to start crying right now, because when I'm 77, I hope that I can still be climbing mountains. And to know, for Bob, obviously it's not ideal to be on your hands and knees and have like that runner's awkward lean in the spine and just your muscles completely give way. But for him, it was worth it. And the beauty in his story is just amazing. So finishing the race with Eddie, that last half mile climb, seeing my crew, we mustered up a run. They said, Sally, you got to run. And I was like, oh my gosh. The point of view of the video that you have, Eddie, is you can tell I'm just this hobbling pain. Yeah. We had kind of like an awkward finish. Actually, there was 2 people filming, and then we didn't get to hold hands crossing the finish line, but it was just it was a great relief. I felt this sense of relief for our team that once we crossed through that tape, it was like, we're done. We did it. And, I'll tell you what, I've taken these last 5-6 days to completely download on you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like how many conversations have we had about my afterthoughts of this race? And,
yeah, no, it's been good though, to kind of relive those moments of pain and struggle, and, you know, always kind of pointing back to this project, you know, that you're using this first race to inspire and to encourage other people to, you know, choose strong. And obviously this race didn't go as you wanted. And I think it's kind of fitting where, you know, I don't know, it just kind of fits into what you're doing with this project, right? Like where something went wrong and you had no control over it, and you made the best of it, and you had to walk 70 miles, and which is just crazy. And, you know, and I'm sure that's going to encourage other people, because, you know, that's something that's just you have no control over, and you just got to choose to be strong in that moment, you know. And so I think it's kind of fitting, you know, to finish that way.
Yeah. And I just going off that too. I mean, Eddie is he's just my soundboard, I feel like I can tell you anything, and it's a safe place, but
yeah, most of the time I listen.
Most he's like, I've learned the art of checking out, but looking deeply into her eyes, which is okay too, because I talk a lot. I know I can be exhausting. But I think one of the things that I was really working through with you was truly just I did this project because I wanted to share a story, and I wanted it to be about the community. Again, going back to these 6 races aren't about me. This isn't like, watch me do these races, like I'm so amazing and strong. That's not the story that I'm trying to convey. It's actually a call to action to everybody following. It's a call to action because we cannot escape the journey in our life and all the seasons and surprises and challenges that await us. That's the journey for everyone. And, you know, my hope was to find a way to not only honor my mom in this project, but to really hone in on that strength that she had. Because as I've shared many times, you know, those last couple of years of her life, they were painful. She was always uncomfortable. She having 5 kids and wanting to be fully mom, but yet she was fully terminally ill. That's really difficult. I don't remember her laying around on the couch and saying, don't you know how sick I am? Don't you know what I'm feeling? Or you have no idea. It was her wanting to experience those last years with her children. It was her trying to show up as best she could, and put on a happy face in order to give us memories that we would hold on to for the rest of our lives. And that is when I think of struggle, when I think, you know, I'm talking about pain that I signed up for. Let's just be honest, you guys. I signed up for Badwater. I signed up knowing it's going to be uncomfortable. I signed up knowing this is an opportunity for me to push myself physically. This isn't torture. This isn't somebody made me to do this. And I think that's the beauty of all types of sport. When we have physical challenges in sport, or when things don't turn out our way, we also have to remember it's sport. And that the best part about it are the lessons that we learn about ourselves and how we can apply those to life. If we don't do that, we miss out on the best part. So when you think of your next ultra or your next half marathon or triathlon or whatever it is that you're training for in life, and it doesn't even need to be a race, think about what it is that you're going to learn. You know, the goal is to show up every day and be the best that you can be in training, to be the best that you can be as a parent, as a career person, to always give your best, because you have no idea of the challenge that's ahead. How great is it to be able to hit a challenge and be like, I trained for this. I'm ready for this. I knew that life was not always going to be smooth. And so I am strong, I'm fit, I'm ready. And that's my choice. I think so often we think that being strong is this physical look about us. And I'll tell you what, when I was running Badwater just a few days ago, I did not look strong at all. I looked hunched over. I was physically feeling very weak. And the strength that I called upon all came from my mind. And I think that we can choose that. When our body gives way, we can still choose to be strong. We can still figure out a way. And for me, it was embracing the unfathomable walk. I've never walked that far in my life. I resisted it. I hated it. I'll be honest. I really did not like it, but it was the only pathway for me. That was my pathway. My pathway to the finish line was nothing that I had dreamed of or hoped of, but it was how I was going to get to the finish line. The pathway was going to be 70 miles of aching pain, walking. And that's how we finished. And I think I learned a lot in that. I learned that I can work through new dilemmas in the moment. I learned that discomfort comes in many different forms, because there were moments where I think the walking made me tired because it was so slow. And so having to work through just the fatigue. I mean, I think that's essentially why I started hallucinating, because it was just, my heart rate's dropping. I'm still moving in this heat. And I was now working through new challenges that I had never worked through before, the blisters on my feet, all of that. But what do we learn about ourselves when we take the only way? And even if that way is a way of discomfort, what do you learn about yourself? Because at the end of the day, it is how you respond to life's challenges that truly show you who you are. When we let go of how we want the journey to be and we embrace the reality of what it truly is, man, we not only achieve more, but we begin to grow. We begin to see that we truly are capable more of than what we thought we were capable of. And when I talk about that, it's like, you don't know what you're capable of until being strong is the only choice that you have, because usually our goal is to avoid discomfort at all costs. I mean, that's what society teaches us. If you're uncomfortable, then do everything you can to get comfortable. If somebody is not fun to be around, or if somebody is pulling you down, or they're negative, well, get rid of that person right away. But what I have learned in life is, like, sometimes I can be the very negative, not fun person to be around. And I'll tell you what, Eddie, I'm so grateful that you are my person that stays with me in those highs and those lows, that you have taught me what it is to be unconditionally strong, unconditionally loving, whatever the challenge, whatever the season, no matter what season I'm in. And that's who I want to be. I want to be able to work through every discomfort. I want to learn how to give that grace to myself and those around me when the seasons get hard. And as I thought about my mom in this challenge, I thought, man, I'm walking, and this is the best that I can give. And this is what it means to choose strong. This is actually a great start to the Choose Strong project. Yeah. And I have a few notes that I wrote down that I want to share with you guys just really quick. When I created this project, my hope was to find a way to not only honor my mom and call upon the strength she taught me, but to spread a message to others that so many of us identify with. And it's been incredible. That message is, when we choose to be strong, even when we feel physically weak, great things happen. And I can tell you firsthand, Badwater really slapped me in the face with this message, because I went in with a strong belly, a fit body, and a peaceful, race-ready mind. I know this course, and I was confident I'd run fast. And the first 50 miles were awesome. They were everything I expected, because that's how I train. So when my hip capsule locked, it was like a ball and chain for me. There was nothing I could do to change the situation. The only thing I could do was change my mindset. Choose a strong mindset. Choose a strong mindset, my friends. When you can choose nothing else, you can choose to react with strength. And it was so amazing because then my body followed. You know, when Eddie and I are still talking about, Sally, you walked 70 miles. I'm like, I still can't believe that. I can't fathom it. There was a point in my mind, I remember when we had like 55 miles left. And I said, I can't think about that I have 55 miles left because I know it's all me walking. I've never done that in my life. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But right now I'm just going to be in this mile and that's all I can do. That's all I can do. I can just embrace that. That's it. And I think that now that the race is over, I still am in shock that I did that. More so than just being able to run. Like when I think of running 100 miles, I'm like, yeah, I've done that for the last decade. Like my body is adapted to that. But walking that far with that much pain, I've never done that before. And a lot of people have asked, okay, Sally, what was it? What was it that was wrong? So let me just give you a quick rundown, especially because a lot of the women, I've gotten some incredible responses from women who have actually experienced this before. So there's two sides of what happened because on one hand, I did share that I was PMSing, and I, you know, as soon as I crossed that finish line, you know, I was full blown on my period. So I had all the wonderful symptoms. So I was experiencing all of that in the race. But what happens is when you're on your period, your uterus enlarges. And I typically always have some issues with my sacrum, my pelvis, my hips. I've shared in posts before that I have some spinal issues, some compressed discs. My hips fall out quite a bit. But this is one of the main reasons why I strength train so much. So to keep the pain away and to also make sure that I'm strong enough, I know how to kind of click my hips back in and get aligned. I have an incredible PT, Michelle Cazares, who takes care of me. So I was strong and aligned going into this race. But what happened was, apparently my sacrum was a little bit off. And then as I was running, which is a form of stress, the further I went, so this is why it was like 50 miles in, because I wasn't feeling this in regular training. But once I was 50 miles in, all that I needed was just a little push from that nice overlarged uterus, because I was PMSing, and it pushed my pelvis forward. So between my sacrum and pushing my pelvis forward, my hip capsule locked. So thank you, Mother Nature. I got to have this experience. I don't think I would have had this experience had I not been PMSing. But this is just the reality. It's not an excuse. It's not anything that I'm even angry about. It's just something that now I know for next time. I know what happened, and hopefully I can do a better job at maybe releasing it. I will say Michelle worked on me for 2 hours to release my hip. Did it feel good? You know, not so much, but I'm moving now. Like my recovery from this race, and maybe because it was all the walking I did, no soreness. I've been sleeping like a champ. I lost a little bit of weight, which I've been trying to get back with. I've had several cheeseburgers and donuts and lots of good food, lots of green juice and fruits and water and all of that stuff to get the weight back up. But outside of that, I feel like I have great energy and I'm really excited about the next race. So maybe in some ways it was a gift in disguise to propel me to the next race and really moving forward. I didn't totally kill myself by running super hard and fast for the first race. Like I feel good and I'm excited for Andrews Crest 100. That's the race number 2.
Yeah. I mean, and you didn't get an injury.
You
thought initially that was an injury. So you kind of were able to check that off as not.
Yeah. A lot of people ask that. I was confident pretty much I never thought for a minute that I was injured. I knew that it was, I go, there's something is wrong in my alignment. And maybe that's just because having been a competitor for so long, you really start to know your body and understand. I was like, this isn't an injury. I can tell there's just something that's off and I don't know how, but my hip is locked and we just need to get that released. And Colin tried. I mean, tried all the stretches and all the, I mean, we probably had to stop a good 10 times, do you think, to use that Theragun?
Yeah. And then at one point he was like, hey, let's look up, on YouTube
This is reminiscent of Western States 2014.
How to do some K-tape.
Yeah, he got K-tape out, and I just dropped my shorts right there.
Yeah.
I just dropped my shorts, and he just went to town and just did this flower position.
Good,
he was really good. And I told Michelle, my PT, about it. She's like, oh, he did the right one. So I don't think that helped. I was in so much pain. I felt like everything he did was like, yeah, there's zero pain relief, but I have a little bit better mobility. And that's all that I was looking for. I was like, at one point you just need to say, hey, we're going to be in pain. There's nothing that's going to help, but we're going to embrace it. We can handle it, and we're going to keep moving forward. And yeah. Wow. And we have been talking for over an hour and a half.
We?
Right? All right. So community, I want to encourage you as I look forward to the next race, which is in 19 days on August 6th. I'm going to carry what I learned in race number 1 with me. And I hope that you'll join me. So this is how you can join me. On race day, I want you to hike, run, ride, or lift. It's a 100-mile race. Actually, I think Angeles Crest, because it used to be a point-to-point race from Wrightwood to Altadena. It's my local mountains in the Angeles Crest National Forest. Because of the fires, it's an out and back. The course is now harder. It used to be deemed as one of the toughest hundreds in the United States. It's harder now. Oh. This race was the first race that I did. It was my first 100. I did it with Colin. And I did this race. I didn't know until about halfway through I had a stress fracture in my leg. I still finished, went right into crutches, learned better how to take care of myself after this race. But I always told myself, I'm going to go back and do this race. So that is why this race is on the schedule. I'm going back. I'm going to run it stronger. So it's 102 miles. It's the thing about this race is you get 3 very vital things. You get heat, altitude, and a whole lot of climbing. I believe this race has maybe 22,000 feet of climbing in it. And it's just a tough course. It's beautiful. It's home to me. I've spent thousands of hours out there because it's my local mountains. So I do love it. It's a big local community that races it. But I invite you to hike, run, ride, or lift for 100 minutes, 100 reps, 100 kilometers, or miles as I race. Challenge yourself to tap into the strength inside you and use that time to think about the areas in your life where fear, setbacks, or challenges are keeping you from getting to the finish line. No matter what you're facing in life, your mindset is going to dictate your journey. And I hope you'll choose a strong mindset and understand that you are strong and you can move through the challenges that are in front of you. Eddie, I don't know if you want to add to that as we wrap this up.
No, I'm excited to see all the different ways that people are doing this project come in. I mean, we've seen quite a bit of, emails come through.
Oh my gosh.
Messages, and it's pretty neat to see.
It's actually been overwhelming.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure how people would respond to this, but daily we get messages through our website, in the Choose Strong community page on Facebook, messages through Instagram. I mean, I've been brought to tears many times through the stories that people have shared with me. So some people are saying, Sally, this is my Choose Strong story. And they share this incredible story with me. And then they share the activity that they are doing. Some people have created these massive activities. I mean, I've been amazed at some of the things that people are doing to honor those that have gone before them or those that inspire them to be strong today. And so that's really what I hope that you'll do. You can follow us on the Choose Strong Project on Instagram. We also have a Choose Strong Project Facebook page. And of course, you can follow Eddie and I on all our social handles. You can check those out in the captions. But I just want to thank you guys for taking your time to spend with Eddie and I today. We love the community that we've been able to create. We love hearing from you. Thank you for your kind words, the kind feedback. We need more of that in the world. We are in a time right now where I know people are looking for kindness and we are looking for hope and we're looking to be connected in real and positive ways. And so I'm finding a lot of that in our Choose Strong podcast and project communities. And I just want you to know that Eddie and I, we appreciate you. You inspire us, you encourage us, and I want you to know that you matter. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Choose Strong podcast. We will see you and enjoy our time with you next time. But until then, keep choosing strong.